Hi guys, welcome to an interesting video on Wild Rifts. Today we're back with an Akshan complete guide, and who knew that I'll be making this video. Now, I have said all along that Akshan wasn't really very strong, and I also mentioned after patch 2.4b's patch note updates where they gave him crit scaling on his E and his ultimate, that we shall see if that makes him meta. Now, the answer is pretty obvious. It has. The E and ultimate scaling with crit has actually made him really good. So now Akshan is sort of like, he sort of becomes a assassin kind of AD carry, sort of like a Kaisa who has to pretty much jump in to do the damage, or like a Lucian who has to dash in to do the damage. So Akshan's main point of damage is his E. So it's not his basic attacks, it's not his boomerang, it's mainly his E, which is his swing. So this makes Akshan a very high skill floor and skill ceiling marksman to know how to play. His ideal role is mid lane, because you can use your stealth to roam up to top lane and down to bot lane. However, as you guys know, I'm an AD carry main, so I do play him in the AD carry position, but definitely he's way better in the mid lane, because you don't really use your W when you are playing him as an ADC. As you guys will see in the gameplay later, I barely use his W at all. So, without further ado, let's quickly jump into the practice mode to cover his skills and his leveling order. Alright, so now let's quickly jump into the leveling order first. So, when you first start the game, you want to start off with your Q. Now, the reason for this is, of course, you want to use it to poke enemies and clear minions as well, whereas no other ability really benefits you as much level 1. Level 2, obviously, you want to take your E. As I said, it's your main point of damage, so you want to take your E. Now, on level 3, you actually want to max your E first, and you don't actually want to max Q at all. So you want to max E because E is your main point of damage. You take a point in E, because even whether you play mid or ADC, you won't be roaming at level 3, so you just want to take another point in your E just to increase your damage for trading or for all-ins. Now, at level 4, normally that's when I take my W, because if not, I have to take a point in Q, because I can't level my E any further, so I'll take a point in W. Then, I'll of course take my ultimate at level 5. Then, of course, we go on to maxing E, maxing Q, and of course taking a point in ult whenever available. And of course we max W last, because W is the least useful. You don't really get too much from maxing W. So we'll talk about his build later, of course. But first off, we'll cover what all his skills do. So first up, of course, we want to stop the Darius from really doing anything. So we're gonna head over to our usual spot here. We haven't done one of these in quite a while. Alright, so first up, we're gonna talk about his Q. So his Q is a boomerang that of course goes back and forth, like so. However, if you hit a target, it will extend the range. Now, the best way to show this is if it's on the minion. So here, this is my normal range. I'm going to kill this minion, it's going to extend to that minion, and it's going to extend again. So it doesn't actually have to kill a minion to extend its range. All it really has to do is to hit something. So here, I'm going to hit this minion. It goes through this minion, through that minion, and through all those minions, and the range is extended. So this is how you can really poke the enemy. So for example, if this target dummy is the minion, or actually I can use the skull crab here. So I can just use the skull crab to extend the range. Actually, I missed there. But you can actually just use the skull crab, which is pretending to be a minion, to just extend the range and harass the enemy by that way. So that's your main way of harassing enemies in lane. Actually, maybe a simpler way is like that. Boom. You extend the range. Actually, I didn't even hit the skull crab, but you guys get what I'm saying. You extend the range using something else. So here, let's assume these two target dummies are actually minions. So I want to hit the target dummy over here. That one, the one beside the ward. So I'm going to shoot through these two. It's going to extend the range and hit the person I actually want to hit. So that's what his Q does. And actually, I should probably cover his passive first. So his passive is honestly, it's really complicated. So he has two parts of his passive. The first part is he gets the kind of Vayne passive where you get 3 stacks. When you hit your 3 stacks, you will get a burst of movement speed as well as a shield. So the shield can only be activated when this yellow bar is up. So as you can see below his mana bar, there is a yellow bar. When it's up, when you proc it, you get a shield. If the yellow bar is not up, you proc it, you don't get the shield and the movement speed. So the second part of his passive is if you cancel your auto attacks, you get a burst of movement speed. So here, he actually double auto. So if I cancel the second auto, boom, I get a burst of movement speed, as you guys can see. Or I shouldn't say a burst, but you get some movement speed like that if you cancel the second auto attack. If you hit both your auto attacks, that's a double auto attack, boom, boom. The second attack does less damage, of course. And if you want to confirm the second auto attack, you can actually just press and hold. So even if you try to cancel, but you press and hold, the game won't cancel for you. So that's how you control if you hit your second auto attack or not. So that's how it goes. Now, let's move on out of his passive onto his W. So now his W is a stealth, where if you stand near terrain, you will be permanently stealth like that. So here I am stealth, but as you guys can see, that circle, the range that you can be spotted at is really, really huge. These two enemy dummies can see me, that one cannot. But if I keep staying near terrain, you can actually be seen. If you pass by like a dragon pit, you will actually maintain your stealth like that, but you just must always creep through the terrain. That most gaps you can actually get through, but large ones you can't. This one you barely can, and a gap like here you can also get through, but you have to walk like right at the edges. So here you can. This is how you can actually roam from mid without actually getting spotted, because wards cannot see you when you're stealth, of course, and there are no control wards, so you cannot be seen at all. So yeah, that's how it goes. So of course, when you move away from the wall, you go out of stealth. Now, the main actual important part about this skill is not actually the stealth, but it is actually the revive. So as you guys can see, when enemy champions are killed, they become scoundrels. So if an enemy champion gets a kill on your ally, they become a scoundrel. They will get a mark above their head. And if you kill that scoundrel, you will revive your ally, assuming they haven't been revived yet. Of course, in the early game, this isn't very helpful, because in the early game, the death timers are very short. So your allies most likely have already revived, or if not, you just save them like maybe 2-3 seconds or 5 seconds of reviving. It's not very useful in the early game, but in the late game, this can be a game changer. So that's what it does. And also, when you stealth, you get increased movement speed towards scoundrels. Now I can't show this here, but basically there'll be a trail, a yellowish white trail towards them, and if you follow the trail, you will get increased movement speed. Now onto the E, which is also a very, very complicated ability to explain. So there are multiple parts. So here, as you guys can see, you have to use it onto a wall. If you don't use it onto a wall, it fails. You will shoot at nothing. If you use it onto a wall, you will attach. Now after you attach, you can choose your direction, and you can choose the direction of going forwards or backwards. So for example, when I was at the wall, let me give myself 0 cooldown so I can explain. Like that, I can choose to go this way, or I can choose to go this way. Now of course, when you're actually using it in game, you shouldn't be pausing this log to decide which way you want to go. You should just be deciding. So it should look something more like this, not that, this, where you already decide which way to go. And as you guys can see, as you swing, you will also auto attack at a pretty fast rate, which is why that is his main point of damage. And you can also proc your passive from it, so that's why the E is your main point of damage. And after you release, you can also control a roll. So for example, this way I'm going to go forward. Actually, I'm going to go... Okay, I messed it up there a bit. So I'm going to go forward, but when I cancel, I'm going to roll sideways. So you can also like roll backwards, like that. You can actually roll backwards as well. So when you cancel or when you hit something, you will actually have a roll. So now how does this get cancelled? There are two ways. Firstly is you whack into terrain like this, so you will stop when you hit a wall. But another way it does actually stop as well is if you hit an enemy. So now for example over here, if I try to swing, when I hit into that dummy target, it's gonna stop my swing. So you can actually whack into enemies. So as you can see here, my circle is gonna whack into the target dummy, I believe. So like, actually I went the wrong direction. So like that, when you whack into target dummy, it's not going to work, but you have to sort of try to avoid like that, so to actually get off your shots. Now of course, the challenge of playing Akshan is you need to be able to E a large distance without hitting into anybody. So you sort of want to do that so you can get a large number of shots, or something like this, where you can get a number of shots onto the enemy to sort of do as much damage as possible. But the other problem, of course, that I think is relatively obvious now is that if you are playing blue side, these are the enemies. If you swing in to do damage, you will be at a pretty bad position. So that's why you sort of like an assassin. You gotta go in, kill an enemy and get out. And the reason for that is when you kill an enemy, you actually get a reset on your E. So after killing an enemy, you will be able to use your E again. So I jump in, I kill this enemy, I get my E back again, and then I can use it to run away if I need to. Now, let's move on to his ultimate, which is a target ability. So you can choose which target you want to hit. Now what will happen when you choose the target is you will lock onto them like that. You will charge up your bullets and then you fire all your bullets towards them. Now there is a lot of things to note for this one. Firstly, as you guys can see, it's a straight line. Anything in the path of that enemy will block it. Jungle monsters will block it, minions will block it, other allies will block it, even turrets will block it. Literally everything will block it. Now if I'm not mistaken, even the dragon will block it. Let's take a quick look here. Yeah, even the dragon blocks it, everything does block it. So, yeah, everything does block it. So, it's really, really hard to use this ultimate effectively to actually kill somebody because majority of the time it's going to get blocked by something. Something will block it. So, his ultimate is really, really unreliable, but when you actually do have the chance to use it, it is, of course, very useful. So, yeah, it does have an updating execute mechanic where at lower health it will do more damage. So, it can actually do surprising damage sometimes. So, that is also something to take note of. Now, I believe we have covered every single aspect of Akshan. Of course, he's the newest champion. Really, really overloaded kit. A lot of things to cover. So, we have spent quite a large amount of time covering it. But it is all essential. Now, we're going to move on to the build, which also there are a lot of things to cover. So, here we have the Akshan build. Now, first up, we're going to cover the build. So, now the core items for Akshan is Blade of the Rune King. Of course, I forgot to mention that the E actually applies on hit effect. So Blade of the Rune King can actually proc from his E, as well as something like a Wit's End. So this is his core build. Blade of the Rune King, Infinity Edge, and Rune's Hurricane. Now, Blade of the Rune King, the reason for this is pretty simple. You need the lifesteal. Now, the reason for that is like Kaisa, who builds Blade of the Rune King as well. You are going to be going into the enemy team. You're going to be swinging into the enemy team. You need the lifesteal to survive. Without the Blade of the Rune King, you will not survive. You will just die instantly because you don't have any lifesteal. So you need the Blade of the Rune King as your first item. Now, of course, we know his E is his main damage and it scales with crit. So what do? We get the best crit item in the game, or the one that gives the most crit damage, which is the Infinity Edge. So we get the attack damage, we get the crit, and we get the increased crit damage, of course. So this is a huge power spike for Akshan. Then we go on to the Rune's Hurricane, which of course gives him more crit and attack speed. But the important part about the Rune's Hurricane is that it does give the Wind's Fury passive, which allows him to spread his passive. Now, unlike Vayne, you can apply your passive onto multiple enemies at the same time, including minions, monsters, champions, everything at the same time. So you don't have to, you're not single target like Vayne, you can apply it to everybody at the same time. So that's why you need to get the Rune's Hurricane. Now, for your last two items, there are a lot of possible items. Now, personally, I like to go for these two. I like to go for the Mauler Reminder, for the penetration, and the Grievous Wounds, because you can apply Grievous Wounds very easily with your boomerang as well as your swing. If you hit multiple targets on your swing, but normally not. It's normally your boomerang that allows you to apply Grievous Wounds very effectively. And then you go for Mauler Reminder just for armor, a little bit of AD, and the Revive passive, of course. Now, we're going to quickly cover the Boot and the Enchant. Now, personally, I do not actually go for Gluttonous Greaves. I actually normally go for one of the defensive boots because, as I said, we're going to be going in. So, I normally like to go for either Merc Treads or Plated Steel Caps. If they have at least one huge magic damage threat and a bunch of CC out, I will go for the Merc Treads. If not, I will go for the Plated Steel Caps. Now, for the enchant, there are a lot of enchants you can actually go for. Personally, I go for stasis because I'm jumping in. I want to just stasis there if need be and buy time for my team to back me up. But I've also seen a lot of other options like the Proto Belt to just dash out because your E is very hard to aim. So sometimes you E and you collide into someone, collide into terrain, you mess up your E and you're stuck there and you die. So Proto Belt is a good way to escape. Another one is, of course, the Quicksilver, where you go in and get CC. You can cleanse the CC away and get out. Another one that I have actually seen as well is actually the Twin Shadows. So with this one, it's normally not used to spot out enemies, but more used to slow. So if you want to chase down an enemy, you just slow them and then you E towards them and you use your passive movement speed and just chase them down. They have no escape. Personally, I don't go for this one because I think he has enough chase down potential, so I don't go for this. Now, as I have mentioned just now, for your last two items, you actually have a lot of options. So I'm going to cover all the different options that you have. So, firstly, instead of Moral Reminder, you can actually go for the Wits, not the Wits, and the Serelda's Grudge. So for the Serelda's Grudge, you get a slow. So with the slow, it's even easier to chase down enemies, and it's even easier to kite enemies. Now, Akshan is also really good at kiting, because if someone is chasing you, you can always cancel your second auto to get increased movement speed, and combined with your E, you are very hard to chase down. So it's very easy to kite enemies, especially when you combine it with the Serelda's Grudge. But personally, I just like Moral Reminder just because of how easy it is to apply the Moral Reminder, and he doesn't actually have a very good synergy with Serelda's Grudge, because the main skill you use to slow is your Q. You can't really use the others to slow that much. Of course, your E works as well, but I prefer the Moral Reminder personally, but you can go for Serelda's Grudge if you want to. Now, another option that you can go for instead of the Guardian Angel is actually the Wit's End. Now, this is for going into very heavy AP comps. You get attack speed, which is of course useful, but the main point you want here is the passive as well as the magic resist. So 50 magic resist, nothing to scoff at. It's about the same as an entire magic defense item, but when you're below 50% health, you deal a bonus on hit magic damage, which you can apply with your E. And in addition to that, you get a heal, which of course, as I mentioned already, is definitely what you want. Now, yet another option you can go for is the Death's Dance instead of the Guardian Angel, because of course, you get the Costa Rise and the Lifesteal, so you get even more Lifesteal, and you get the Costa Rise, which will allow you to Lifesteal back the damage that you take instead of getting insta-bursted, so that's another option. And the last option is actually the Phantom Dancer. If you want to go full Glass Cannon, you can go for a last item, Phantom Dancer, which of course you do get the shield from as well. Of course, you can also go for a Static Shift or the Rapid Fire Cannon, but that makes you way too squishy. So you can actually go for a Phantom Dancer as your last item instead of the Guardian Angel or Wit's End if you really want to go full on Glass Cannon and full on damage. Because as I said, he is an assassin, so you can always think about it this way: if you have more damage, you kill off an enemy, the enemy can't kill you. You get a reset, you kill another enemy. So you know, it does sort of make sense, because of course with even more crit rate, you have even more crit scaling. So yeah. Now, in case you guys are wondering why we don't actually build the Charge Blade, now Charge Blade, you can actually build it, to be very honest, but you can't actually proc it very often. His E has a large cooldown, you wouldn't use your W to proc Charge Blade, and your Q is the only real incredibly spammable spell, but honestly, the rest are just better. You need the Infinity Edge for the damage, you need the Rune's Hurricane to spread your passive, so you get more value from those compared to the Solari Charge Blade, but it is also an option. Now, another option you have as well is actually Essence Weaver. So some people actually go for Essence Weaver first item to deal more damage on both your E and your Q. Of course, your ult as well, but mainly your E and Q. But I don't like this just because I feel that you really need the lifesteal from the Blade of the Rune King. That's why I don't actually go for the Essence Weavers, because I think that the lifesteal is really essential. So, yeah. Now we're going to move on to the spells and the runes. So for the runes, there's no two ways about it. You gotta take Conqueror. Conqueror is obviously the best for like every single ADC except possibly Vayne and Jhin. So you go for the Conqueror, of course, for the increasing damage the longer you stay in a fight. And for the second one, you actually do have a couple of options. Now, first you can go for Brutal, of course, which does give you more early game damage to sort of try to get kills in lane and snowball, which, at least at the time of recording, at the start of patch 2.4b, most people have not yet realized how strong Akshan is and how much damage he actually does. So, just for comparison, I can more or less half health a support at the moment I get my E, as long as I already get like an auto attack on them to target them with the E. I can more or less half health a support with just one E, so he does a lot of damage, and with the Brutal, you have a good chance of getting an early game kill. But after people know how Akshan works, I doubt they'll let him get off his damage so easily, so I think the better option is Hunter Vampirism, which of course you get even more lifesteal from, because as I said, lifesteal is very essential stat for Akshan, because he goes in and he needs that lifesteal. Now for the second one, I normally go for Hunter Titan from the Tenacity, because normally the enemy team has some form of CC at least, so you kind of want to go for the Hunter Titan for that reason. But other options you can go for are also Adaptive Carapace, which I don't normally go for, and you can also go for Bone Plating, because you do actually go in, so sometimes just blocking that bit of damage will be helpful, but of course, as I like to mention, Bone Plating is very easily abused by the enemy to proc it and then go in after your Bone Plating is on cooldown, so I don't like Bone Plating personally. And for the last one, I always take Sweet Tooth, of course, for the gold and healing from the increased healing from the honey fruit, the rest of the options are simply not as good. So now that we covered all that, the spells is pretty standard. It's barrier or heal. Personally, on Akshan itself, I always take barrier just because you'll always be going in, so you get a lot of value from the barrier. Someone like Kaisa does so as well. If you're playing someone else like, you know, that's more safer, that doesn't just jump in like maybe a Jinx, you don't always want to go for that. You sometimes want to go for the heal just to help your team out. So with that all out of the way, we can finally jump into the gameplay, and let's go for it. Alrighty, so finally onto the gameplay. So now, as usual, as I like to say, if you guys enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more. So, I will say in this video, I did make a couple of mistakes here and there, but of course, you know, that's no problem at all, because we can all learn from my mistakes, so you guys will avoid it as well. Honestly, those mistakes are mostly mechanical misplays, because, as I said, the skill floor for Akshan is pretty high, because to learn how to hookshot as Camille, to learn how to do your swing properly is pretty difficult. Now, speaking of which, Camille is actually our jungler, so we have to actually give Camille a leash, because Camille's clear is pretty slow, especially you know, at level 1 she takes her E and she gets her attack speed boost and clear for her clear, but she clears pretty slow, so the least we could do is give her a nice leash on her red buff. But we do of course make it in time to get our minions. So if you are an AD carry and you want to give a leash, I recommend 3 auto attacks and at most 4. If not, you will miss your first minion for sure. With 3 auto attacks, you can make it back in time to actually get the last hit on the first minion. If you do 4, you'll make it back in time to get the XP and gold, passive XP and gold, but you won't be able to last hit majority of the time. So we're of course back in lane, so we're just trading a little bit here and there. They do have a Malphite support, so it is a bit annoying because he has that shield, and he also has the guaranteed poke. So if you're playing against a Malphite support, you know you're going to guaranteed get poke because of his Q. There is no avoiding that. So as you can see, I go in with my E here, does a lot of damage. The Malphite is exhausted, and I get the kill on the Malphite. Here I flash away and I barrier to actually swing away, but unfortunately I missed my E and I actually get killed by Ashe. Now I think that there's actually a decent chance there if I hit my E that I actually survive swinging out. Now here, you know, my dual partner Nami, an amazing outplay on the Xin Zhao, lives on 1 HP and, you know, gets the recall to base. So they're already like about less than 2 minutes into the game, already got my first mechanical misplay. Of course, you can use your E like that to get into lane faster. If I hit that E onto the wall as intended, I believe that I would have escaped there with a sliver of HP. But yeah, it wasn't to be, so I'm not the best Akshan player. I would say I know how it works. I find that the hardest part of Akshan, number 1, is using your E properly, and number 2, knowing when to cancel your autos and knowing when not to cancel your autos, because sometimes you just want to cancel to you know, get the movement speed to chase, to run, which are pretty obvious scenarios, or even if you're standing on the spot, to just move left and right to dodge. Because don't forget, if you actually hold and you do a double attack, you're actually rooting yourself because you can't actually move. Now this is another problem. I E into the Malphite, so my damage is severely stunted. So I gotta wait for my E cooldown to come back up again before I can trade. But you know, we got an early kill, and we, you know, so we aren't doing too bad. So overall, you know, we have 3 kills in the bot lane. Of course, Nami did get the solo kill on the Xin Zhao, which I wasn't involved in. But overall, we are still doing really well. So here, of course, in lane, you always want to use your boomerang to try to poke. Of course, you shoot them through the minions. Rarely are they ever gonna stand like so close to you that you're in range to simply hit them with the boomerang straight up. Of course, there are scenarios like that, but they aren't very common. So here, Ashe doesn't do a lot of damage, and Malphite doesn't do a lot of damage as well. So I'm playing very aggressive because overall in this lane, I do have more damage than both of them, assuming that I hit my E properly. So I can actually afford to play aggressive and, you know, try to apply pressure onto them. But if it was a higher damage lane, that will be, of course, a little bit more difficult, and I would have to play a little bit more passive. So Shan has, of course, 2 playstyles. The first one you're seeing here is playing aggressively when you are, you know, in a winning lane like this. You know, we win in every aspect. We have more damage than them. We have more wave clear than them with my boomerang. So this is a winning lane for us. Whereas if I was against someone who was even, or you know, someone that is a losing lane like a Draven, I would be just playing more passive, because you can't play the farm and poke playstyle with just his boomerang. So all you do is stand back, you poke with your boomerang, and you farm with your boomerang and your auto attacks to get last hits on minions. So what you will see in this game is that my entire team is very objective focused, and we actually just rotate for the dragon here. The enemy team shows up late. Here I get off a very, very good E in order to, you know, get my damage onto the Malphite, and just look at how much damage I did there. Because Ari did hit the charm as well to CC him, and Malphite does kind of panic out me, but doesn't really matter too much. I barrier just because I was afraid of some follow-up, but actually there was none, so I didn't even need to barrier. I'm back to full health after going back to the lane and lifestealing off the minions with my Vamp Scepter. So now I'm gonna, of course, just get off a recall and, you know, pick up my first item, which is the Blade of the Rune King, as well as a pair of boots. So on the cross map, the enemy team actually goes for the Rift Herald, which is, of course, a good trade-off for them. They trade first dragon for Herald. Although the dragon is an ocean, they still get a Herald off that, and they can potentially get first tower off that. So I would say it's an alright trade for the enemy team. The enemy team is doing fine as well. In terms of gold, the enemy team is actually slightly ahead of us, but I would say the game is even overall, because of course our bot side is winning, and actually we are winning across the board in more or less every role. It's just that I guess the enemy team is farming up pretty well. So this just proves that kills aren't everything. So we have an even amount of gold, but clearly we have double of the enemy team's kills. So this just simply means that they have been farming better. I personally think it's probably because of Ari and Pantheon, you know, roaming, so they're probably missing out on minions, whereas other people can get the minions. Of course, we do see the Malphite coming here, so we back off. They actually hit everything onto the Nami, who actually has to, you know, flash out, and I mess up my E slightly over there because I don't actually get off any damage with my E. With my ult, Malphite actually lives on a sliver of HP. If you take a look at the right hand corner of your screen, you can see Malphite's HP. He lives on a sliver of HP. So the ultimate actually does a lot of damage. If you can get off your full ultimate unblocked by anything, I think you can kill most people from about half health. So I was trying to get off my E there, but I kind of don't do it too well once again. So we can't actually really dive the Ashe. We just pick up a plate and, you know, we just leave from there, get off a reset. Nami's low on resources and my health isn't in the best state as well. So Malphite obviously has recall, Ashe has recall as well, so the wave is in the neutral state, so we don't actually have to clear the wave. So one thing to note is that we don't actually have to greet over the wave in this scenario. Now the reason for that is that the enemy team isn't pushing as well, so the wave state is neutral. So for every minion we lose, they will lose that as well. So considering that we are ahead of them, this isn't an issue because, you know, as you can see when we come back into the lane, it is exactly the same state for both me and my lane opponents. Both have, you know, 2 minions left, one about to die. Malphite has his ult again for some reason, and they hit everything onto the Nami again. Nami with a good wave to respond. I get my barrier, I kill them, and then look at it. Look at that. That is how you do it. The close range E onto the Ashe and getting off all the damage right into the Ashe's face. And yeah, so here we see the Irelia. She's at low health. We ult her and we can kill her. We don't have to go anywhere near her because we aren't the most healthy. But of course, Pantheon actually man drops in for the shutdown. So kind of a little bit disappointed there. I wanted that shutdown, but of course, what can you do about it? A kill is a kill for the team. Now here, just gonna steal their fruit. Of course, we take everything we can get, and that includes the tower. So we can pick up the tower as well. So at this point, of course, I'm really strong. I have my Blade of the Rune King. I have my cloak. Now, of course, we know Infinity Edge builds from BF Sword and Cloak. Normally, it's better to start off with a BF Sword, but with Akshan, if you don't have enough gold, getting a Cloak is pretty good as well because you can scale with the crit from the Cloak. So it isn't the worst scenario. So here we have already gotten the bot tower, so we're just going to rotate over, because the dragon is coming up. See if we can find any picks right before the dragon comes up. We see Irelia who's retreating, and Xin Zhao who's retreating, and Ashe who's retreating, and we don't hit any of our catching abilities onto them, so instead we're just going to get the positional control over the dragon pit area. Of course Ashe spots us, but this doesn't really give their team any crucial intel because obviously we're all here for the dragon already. Malphite there clearly wants to ult, so I'm just going to stay as far away from him as possible. He ults into my team. Ashe arrow doesn't actually hit me, so bam, I E into the team for a kill. Here I almost die, but I actually get my E off onto the wall and managed to E out of the way as well as getting off my damage at the same time. So not only do I kill the Garen, but I also escape at the same time. Now this is a very good example of how to use your E properly, which a good Akshan player would always be able to do. Now I am not a good Akshan player because as you guys have seen, I have messed up my E multiple times. But that is one of the times that I did not actually mess it up. That is how you're supposed to do it. So you use your E, reverse, and get off your shots as you're reversing and get out of harm's way. Of course, you can do the opposite, which is to go into the enemy team and get your shots off. But in this case, obviously with low HP, I'm trying to run away. So I do manage to do that successfully. And that allows me to pick up my Infinity Edge. Now in this game, the entire enemy team is AD, and Malphite isn't actually going for AP, he's going for tank. So I can actually get the player Steel Caps into a full AD team. It has a lot of value here. And honestly, the Malphite seems to not really know what he wants to build. He has the parts of a lot of different items. He has the parts for the Frozen Gauntlet and everything. So here, before we get into that, here we go to one-on-one the area. I dodge everything, I hit everything, and here I just ult because she's a little bit out of my attack range. I get the kill pretty much with full health. So this is what an Akshan can do. I can 1v1 an Irelia. Of course, granted I did dodge her ultimate and all, but if you want to 1v1 someone, it's all about the mechanics, it's all about the micro. You gotta dodge that ultimate, you gotta get off all that damage. Boom. We get the kill on the Irelia. So as I say, Malphite, no idea what he's trying to build. There he has a Bramble Vest, a Negatron Cloak, the Balmy Cinder, as well as the, I forgot what that thing is called, the one that builds into the Frozen Gauntlet, the Glacial's Shard or something. So he has like 4 parts of 4 different items, so no idea what he's trying to do there. But yeah, he seems to be very indecisive about what he's trying to build. So here, we see 3 enemies not around, so we're going to actually try to push up. But obviously, the enemies rotate. Irelia just respawns, and the Malphite, which is the enemy we can't see, is here. But Pantheon actually man-drops in, and we managed to get the Malphite because he split off. Here I'm pretty low, but I know I have lifesteal and I can actually go in. Irelia ult there, so I don't want to ult into the E into the Irelia ult because that will slow me and damage me quite significantly. Here, I need to kill the Xin Zhao to get the reset, but I don't, so unfortunately I die there, and I give over the shutdown to the Irelia, which is of course not good news for my team because Irelia is pretty much the only person in her team who's actually carrying. The entire rest of the team is negative, and the Irelia is the only one who is really doing somewhat well. So that is pretty bad because Irelia now has the most gold in the game, even more than me. So that is bad news. But what can you really do about it? Sometimes you make a play, it doesn't work. But if I had gone the reset there of the Xin Zhao, I would be able to eat again and possibly do lifesteal back a lot, and at the same time deal a lot of damage and possibly get a kill on another person, another champion, like possibly the Irelia or the I believe it was the Ashe that was there. Not too sure, but anyway, it wasn't meant to be. So instead, we're just gonna go mid and we're just gonna clear out the lane. Not too much we can do here. We have already gotten all of the tier 1 towers, so the only thing that's coming up soon is the Infernal Drake in 30 seconds. So we of course got to prep for that. We're already pinging to go for Infernal Drake. Camille this time is actually on the wrong side of the map. Now here we see the blue buff, so we're going to actually try to get this blue buff. Well, we see the Xin Zhao walking over. Now the goal here is not to actually get the blue buff, but it's actually to get the Xin Zhao to use his smite, which he did right there. Now if you look at that, if you look at Xin Zhao on the upper right hand corner of your screen, you see Xin Zhao's smite. It is on cooldown, so he can't actually smite the dragon. So if we actually go for a dragon fight now, Xin Zhao doesn't actually have smite, so we baited the Xin Zhao into using his smite onto the blue buff, but he shouldn't actually have done it. He should either have given it over or just try to contest it normally. He shouldn't have smited it. So now in the dragon fight, here we're gonna see, boom, we're gonna go onto whoever we can. We get the kill onto the Malphite. Just staying in the backline now. We eat into the team. We get another kill, and here we're just actually ulting the Ashe just to sort of scare her away, which actually successfully works. So here, Garen gets the kill on the Ahri. I get a hit onto the Garen, and I actually managed to revive both the Nami and the Ahri from this fight. So you guys can see Akshan's revive power as well. So my entire team is up just because of the revives. So obviously in a team fight, as long as you survive, you can actually get off the revives. And as a matter of fact, even after you die, if you do get an assist of someone that dies and you die afterwards, you can actually still get the revive off, so your ally will still revive. So of course we are already 13 minutes into the game, so death timers are no longer negligible. So here the revive really comes into play. So with the revive we can get a lot of tempo on the map. Just look at everybody barreling down mid already. I'm of course going to go clear top lane, but without the revive, that wouldn't actually be possible at all. So here you can see a lot of aspects of Akshan. You've already seen how his E works. You've seen the revive. The Q is pretty obvious, and the ult nearly killed the Malphite, so you guys can see how that works. I don't believe I got any very good ultimate that actually ends up killing somebody in this match, but Akshan, as I said, the main part of Akshan is done his ultimate. His ultimate gets blocked by everything. The main point is, of course, his E and his revive. All the good things like that. And as I actually mentioned before, Akshan, he shouldn't really be good, because if he is, he's way too overpowered. You guys saw from that fight, I revived 2 of my allies as an Akshan, and that is a no-go if you know, he is to be balanced, because if we can, you know, revive people so easily, that's not good, because it's way too hard for the enemy team. Here, Garen pushes up way too far. We get a pick on him. 3 of us against 1 Garen, easy peasy. We have also gotten our 3 core items already. So this is the state that Akshan is like the strongest. In the last 2 normally are more utility or more add-on kind, like for the penetration, for the grievous wound, etc. for the survivability. This is the core damage build of Akshan. And here we're just gonna straight up do the Baron. We got a pick on, and we're really strong. All Camille needs to do is to not fail her smite, and we get a free and easy Baron. Ash arrow to the face, which was a pretty good move. Irela actually outs in, but unfortunately she dies, so easy kill there. Here I get off a really good E, as you guys can see there. A lot of damage on that E. Malphite was 1 HP, tries to flash out. Honestly, just a waste of his flash, but I guess it doesn't matter because his team surrenders anyway. So that is it for the gameplay. And as usual, I will leave you guys with the stats. Yep, so here is the stats. As you guys can see, the entire team did well, but we got the S. So anyways, with that, guys, thank you guys for watching the video. See you guys in the next one, and goodbye.